Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining today's presentation with JCU Global Experience and the University of Southampton. If you're attending live, thank you very much for being present. And if you are watching the recording, thank you for taking the time to learn more about some of the exchange experiences you can have as a student here at JCU. We're very excited to have Gemma from the University of Southampton here to give us a little bit of a presentation on not only the University of Southampton itself, but what you can experience as an exchange student there. So I will pass on to Gemma to give us some more information.
Thanks so much, Jackson, and thanks to everyone for joining today. It's really, really nice to be here. So I'm going to give you an overview of the University of Southampton, and then there will be time for questions at the end if people do have questions. So the first thing I'm going to start with is about where Southampton is. So if we can move to the next slide. Perfect. So I won't be offended if you don't know where Southampton is and you haven't heard of it before. Lots of people haven't. But we are down on the south coast of the UK. We say it's the warm south coast, but compared to here in Townsville, it's probably quite chill. We do get the best of the summer weather though, and that is partially because we benefit from a microclimate due to the Isle of Wight, which you can see just at the bottom of that map where our blue dot is. The Isle of Wight is, I'm going to say, comparable to Magnetic Island, but in a very different way, in that there's no coral reef, but it is just really, really beautiful to go around. We are about an hour and 10 minutes by train outside of London, which is really great for students that come to us because it means that you can still go to London on the weekend or experience London during an evening, but you don't have the living costs of actually staying in London. We have an international airport at Southampton, which links all over Europe, and lots of our exchange students really love to use some of their downtime to hop all over Europe when they come to study with us. There is a free university bus that takes you straight to that airport, so it's really, really easy and accessible. We're a very friendly city, and a little bit like here in Townsville, we're based on the coast with about 250,000 residents. There's actually 2 universities in Southampton as a city, which means during term time that community really increases, and it's a very young and very multicultural community to be part of. It's a super walkable city, and a lot of students choose to have bikes because there are cycle paths all around Southampton, and we also have 20 parks across the whole city. So really, really accessible, really, really friendly. If we can move to the next slide. So a few pictures of the city. The one in your top left is our brand new leisure centre and entertainment centre. In the winter, if you came in the UK semester 1, there is an ice rink and a German Christmas market outside, which is really, really pretty during the Christmas period. Within that complex, there's loads of restaurants and bars and cinema and multiple different kind of casinos and entertainment facilities. Naturally, because we're in the UK, we have a football stadium in our city. And Southampton is quite famous as a football club, although it's not doing as well as some people would like it to do anymore. But it's a really great opportunity, and a lot of students really love to take in like a traditional UK football game when they come to us. The bottom left is Winchester. So if you're an art student, you would be studying in our Winchester School of Art. So Winchester is the historical capital of the UK. It's really beautiful and very quintessentially English. Some of Harry Potter was actually filmed in Winchester, so it's really, really pretty, and students love to go there. It's got a lot of kind of like falling down bookstores and bars that are in a hole in the wall. Personally, it's a better night out than Southampton, I think, but that really is entirely up to you. And the bottom right-hand corner is actually Southampton's waterfront. So like I mentioned before, it's a huge maritime city. Sailing is a massive thing for us in Southampton. So if you are into water sports or sailing, we actually have our own, I'll talk about it a little bit later on, but we actually have our own sailing facilities, and the university has its own yacht that you are able to hire out and go out on. So really nice mixture of kind of quintessential English, but also on the coastline. We can move on. So a few other kind of facts about Southampton. It is ranked one of the most affordable places to live in the UK. As I said before, a lot of students really like the fact they can access London but don't have the living costs. And it's also one of the warmest cities in the UK. Around kind of the local area, if we move to the next slide, we are really close to the top left, which is the New Forest. which is one of the UK's national parks. It's ancient UK woodland. It's really, really beautiful and really easy to access via train directly from Southampton. Lots of students really like it because it's outdoorsy. You can hire bikes, you can go running, you can go walking and hiking and camping. And in the summertime, it's a really lovely place to have picnics with your friends, or also do kind of like orienteering across the weekend where you can go from campsite to campsite. I really also recommend it if you come in the autumn. It's absolutely beautiful during Halloween time, and all the trees go bright orange and it really is quite stunning. The UK has some lovely seasonality, and the New Forest is one of those places that you can really experience it. The top right picture is a bit of a lie. That is not Southampton, but that is on the south coast. So we have really easy access to what we call the Jurassic Coast, which is down Cornwall and Devon. It's where people from the UK go on holiday in the UK, and it actually has got a really beautiful coastline and beaches. Southampton is also really close to a place called Bournemouth. So Bournemouth has a really, really lovely beach with a couple of piers, and it's about a 45-minute train journey. So if you are in the UK and you're feeling a little bit beach homesick, there are a couple of beaches that you are able to access, although they probably won't be quite as stunning as they are here in Townsville. The bottom right picture is the Isle of Wight that I mentioned before, and that in particular is a famous set of rocks, which is called the Needles. The Isle of Wight is really beautiful and very easy to get across on the ferry, and lots of our students go over there for the weekend. You can walk around the whole thing or cycle around the whole thing. There's a really famous sailing race that goes around it called Round the Island, and it's just a really, really nice area for a bit of outdoorsy activity. Okay, Winchester as a final thing is just 1 hour by train, and that cathedral that you're looking at right there is where some of the Harry Potter film Great Hall scenes were actually filmed inside the cathedral. So it's really, really beautiful, especially in the wintertime, because the Christmas market that they have in Winchester sits around that cathedral, and it becomes very, very pretty and very Harry Potter-esque. So really nice to visit, and also if you're an art student, that's where you would be studying. So a few things about kind of our reputation and our rankings in terms of what you can expect. We are 160 years old as a university, so super, super old institution. We're considered top 15 in the UK, and we're also in the top 100 of worldwide universities. Our particular strengths are around marine science and oceanography, engineering, and anything maritime because of our location. So also specialising in maritime law, ship science, oceanography, and anything interdisciplinary in between. We're considered a founding member of the Russell Group, which probably doesn't mean much, but it's basically the kind of elite group of universities within the UK for both research and research internationally, with 92% of our research considered world leading across the globe. We have about 11,000 international students with us every single year, and currently that is across 135 countries. If we can move to the next slide. That's okay. Just some nice graphics to kind of summarize that. And then the next thing I'm going to talk about is kind of some of our world-class facilities that we have. So we are really, really highly ranked for engineering. We have one of the biggest wind tunnel in Europe, and we also have the biggest towing tank in Europe, which is phenomenal, and undergraduate students do have access to those research facilities. We have a specialist institute for sound and vibration, so we specialise in acoustical engineering. It's probably the only room in the whole country that you can go and actually no one can hear you scream, which is really, really interesting. We have a whole host of computer labs. This is in our Bloomberg suite. So we specialise for business and entrepreneurship, and we actually have a business incubator on campus. There are specialist computer labs for students to be able to use. You can see the Bloomberg Trading Suite up in the top there. We're also, for engineering, has its own campus called the Boulderwood Innovation Campus for our engineers, which is very swanky and very shiny and looks very beautiful. And we're also a university hospital specialising in cancer research. So we have a specialist cancer research facility at the hospital. I mentioned before that we specialise in kind of ocean science. So on the next slide is just a little bit about our National Oceanography Centre. So we're top 40 in the world for ocean earth sciences. That includes marine biology, oceanography, zoology, earth sciences and geosciences. And our National Oceanography Centre is one of the European research centres for ocean science. It's based down on the docks. We have our own research vessels that students are able to go out and study on. There's also a whole host of specialist teaching and research labs and facilities available for students. It's a really, really fantastic place where the research that the researchers are undertaking is directly linked to the teaching that you will have. So it's a really great place not only to learn more, but to be right at the forefront of what's going on within kind of ocean and earth sciences. So a brief overview next of our faculties and what subjects are available for you to study. We have 5 subjects at Southampton, 5 faculties at Southampton, and over 350 courses across 65 different subject areas. So if we just shuffle across a couple more slides. So we have our Faculty of Arts and Humanities, Social Sciences, Engineering and Physical Sciences, and Environmental and Life Sciences. The 5th faculty, which is on there, is Medicine. It's just not available for exchange. And on this slide, you'll be able to see which subjects are within each of those faculties. So we really do have a really broad range of subjects available to you. And if, as an exchange student, when you come to Southampton, you would be able to have the flexibility to choose modules across the subject areas, as long as it was okay with your coordinators here at JCU. We would ask that you take majority of your modules from the subject that you were nominated to, but you then have the flexibility to take 1 elective per semester from something that is complementary. So we find, for example, a lot of history students might come over to us and actually decide to take an archaeology module because it's really complementary to their studies. Or we also have, say, a geology student, but maybe they're also interested in the marine biology module. It's really easy to try and take something cross-disciplinary if it complements your degree programme. And we encourage students to do that because a lot of what we teach at Southampton is very interdisciplinary. And it's really, really nice. I think part of going on exchange is all about experiencing and learning something different that you maybe don't have the opportunity to do here at JCU. So we do try and be as flexible as possible, but you will need to make sure that it still fits your course. So in terms of our campuses, we now have 8 campuses as a university. Highfield campus is our main one, which is the heart of the university and is where most of our services are based. This is where most students are based all of the time. The Boulderwood campus, I've already mentioned, is our engineering school and also the hospital. The Waterfront campus is the home of the National Oceanography Centre, affectionately known as NOX, which is a really, really fabulous research facility. The Avenue campus is about a 15-minute walk from Highfield and is situated right on the edge of the biggest park in Southampton. It's one of the oldest buildings we have as a university, and it really is quite stunning. That's home to our humanities subjects. I've already mentioned our Winchester School of Art. We also have a campus in Malaysia, which at the moment exchange students can't access, but we're hoping to be able to change that soon. And our brand new campus for this year is our Southampton City Centre campus, which is where I mentioned we specialise in entrepreneurship. That's where kind of those computer suites live, and it's really hooked up kind of business students and finance students to be able to access the city centre hub. So the next couple of slides are just some pictures of some of our campuses. So Highfield campus, which is the main one. The library is one of the oldest buildings, but it's also the type of building that feels a bit like a TARDIS. And it looks like one thing on the outside, and then you go in and it's very, very modern and very, very spacious and really beautiful to be in. The Centenary building is kind of our jewel at the moment. That's brand new. It was supposed to be built for 2020. COVID happened, so it opened in 2022 instead. But that's also our business school, the new space for our business school. And then the final pictures are our Winchester campus for any art students. It's a fabulous facility for art students. Every single student will have their own studio space, and the studios themselves are actually built like traditional kind of factories. So they've got huge vaulted ceilings and they're kind of designed as a warehouse space. It's a really, really fabulous place to be, and some of the facilities and tech they have there is really amazing. In terms of support for you while you're with us at Southampton, it's something we take very seriously and actually have won awards for. So first and foremost, we have something called the Student Hub, which offers student help 24/7, 365 days a year, 64 days a year, however many days there are in a year. And that is by the phone, by email, or actually in person. You are always able to speak to someone, whether that needs to be a counsellor or whether it just needs to be someone to say, are you okay? are you feeling a certain way? There is a safety bus that runs to and from the campus during the evening. So whether you are enjoying yourself in the university pub, which is on campus, or whether you're actually just staying late in the library, there is a safety bus that takes students back to their halls for free. There are over 300 different clubs and societies, which I'm going to talk about a little bit in a minute. And we also have a meet and greet service. So if you are nervous about arriving to the UK for the first time, probably someone like myself will come and meet you in a very, very brightly coloured t-shirt, so you can't miss me in the middle of Heathrow, and take you back to your halls and make sure that you settle in safely. In terms of accommodation, we recognise this is really important for a lot of students. So we do guarantee this for most of our incoming international exchange students. There are loads of options as to how and where you want to live. So we have accommodation, which is the closest, about a 10-minute walk from campus. And it's really, really easy and accessible to get to. Or if you want to live right in the city centre, we also have accommodation called Mayflower, which is a beautiful tower block of kind of apartments, which is smack bang right by the train station. Or we have lots of options that are kind of in the middle. So depending on what kind of lifestyle you want and where you kind of want to be, there are lots of options for where you want to live. All of our accommodation includes a free university bus pass, and the buses go from every single halls of residence straight up to the campus. They run every 10 to 15 minutes, including into the evening, so it's really, really easy to still get around. Every single halls has a 24/7 reception with in-house wellbeing support that I mentioned before. And there are short-term contracts available. So if you are coming to us for a single semester, that's not a problem. You can just have a short-term contract. Every single one of our rooms is single occupancy, so you'll never have to share with another student, but you will have to share with other students if you go self-catered. You do have the option of an ensuite or a shared bathroom, and then you'll only ever share with a maximum of 7 people per flat for your kitchen space and for your bathroom. So for each 7 people, there'll be about 2 different bathrooms if you are sharing. Otherwise, you can have your own ensuite. There are also lots of preference options. So if you want to stay in an alcohol-free halls, if you think you kind of want a quieter lifestyle, or you have other kind of adaptations that you're aware of during your application process, you are able to put your preferences in your application, and you'll be put in halls with like-minded people to make sure that you're comfortable at all times. The next slides are just a few pictures of some of our halls. So there really are different vibes. So Connaught looks very different to quite a few of our others, but those ones that you're looking at now are the ones that are quite close to campus. The next slide are the more city centre based accommodations. So Mayflower really is in the city centre, smack bang by the theatre, right by the train station. So you really do have a lot of options in terms of where you want to live and how you want to live. Moving on, the next slides are about sports and activities while you're with us at Southampton. So we have over 90 different student sports clubs that facilitate for everything from martial arts to basketball, badminton, American football, and like I mentioned before, sailing. So on the next slide, you will see at the top there, that is a picture of the Round the Island race, where it goes a little bit mad. And there's a lot of boats all trying to get around the island as quickly as possible. But the Solent, which is the piece of water between Southampton and the Isle of Wight, is really world famous for sailing. So I can't recommend enough. If you're into it and you like water sports, Southampton is the place to come. We also actually have Quidditch as a sport. Yes, it's a real thing. Even if you don't want to try it, I recommend if you come to Southampton and go to the Common on a Saturday morning, it's hilarious watching grown people run around with a broom between their legs trying to chase a ball. It's absolutely brilliant, and I believe there were 2 years in a row where we were actually national Quidditch champions, so we're very, very proud of ourselves. I've never tried it personally. All of our water sports courses are all RYA accredited, so also if you can't do water sports but it's something you want to learn, you can do that while you're with us at Southampton. We have 6 separate sporting kind of venues or programmes, and as of this summer, the picture at the bottom is our brand new state-of-the-art sport facilities, which we're spending about 25 million in developing, which will be a new gym, it'll have a new swimming pool, new studios, it will have a climbing wall inside of it, and also a social space for students who want to talk about kind of sport and well-being and the kind of collaboration. We also have a dry ski slope. And we also have a river-based water sports facility. So that's for canoeing, rowing, paddleboarding, all sorts of kind of river-based activities. There's also an external sports complex called Wide Lane, which has got, I think it's 6 Astro pitches, a cricket pitch, and as of the end of this year, we will have redeveloped our cricket pavilion. So it will be a really, really nice space for students to be able to get cricket and rounders, and we also have several rugby pitches there as well. Again, all of those sports facilities are connected by our university bus service, so all very easy for students to get to. Our student union has got over 300 student societies for students to get involved in. That includes everything from sports to volunteering to academic societies, so like the debating society, or the law school has got a moot society where they actually set up like a mock courtroom, and students can actually pretend to take on the different roles of what would happen in a courtroom. So even if you're not a law student, I think that's really cool. We have lots of creative societies, so everything from creative writing to photography, to also include things like the Student Radio and the Film Society and TV Production Society. And there's also entrepreneurial and charity societies as well. So really is something for everyone. Most of those societies are reasonably free or very low cost to engage with. So even if you want to carry on something during exchange or try something new, there should be something that you're able to find. My last slide is just a few practical pieces of information to help you when you're looking at planning your exchange to us. So our term dates are in semesters. So our semester 1 is considered our autumn semester, which runs from end of September, early October, all the way through to the end of January. There is a 2-week break for Christmas in December. And our spring semester runs from the start of February to about the middle of June. Some students can finish as early as the end of May. That really depends on how your exams sit. And there is a 4-week Easter break, normally at the end of March, start of April, for that semester. That's normally when students, A, semester 2 is a nice time to come to the UK, it's got slightly better weather, and B, that's when students really take advantage of that 4-week Easter break to do a bit of travelling around Europe. In terms of application deadlines, I'm not going to read them out, but you can see them on the screen. That's where you need to work with the lovely colleagues you have here at JCU to make sure they nominate you, and then you complete your application on time. And then if you have any questions, you can contact the Central Global Mobility Team at Southampton on that email address. Even if you think you're coming or don't know whether you want to come, do drop us an email and we can provide you any information that you need to have. And that's everything. Very happy to take any questions. Thanks so much for listening. And you can either contact us directly, or Jackson in the JCU team will be able to connect you with us if you do have questions. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Gemma. We do have a participant, so if they have a question, more than happy for them to put it in the chat. While they're doing that, I'll ask a few questions that are common amongst JCU students and see if you can provide further information. So roughly, what would you say is the average expected cost that a student would want, or in savings would want to have, to ensure that they have a good enough experience and to be able to afford everything?
Yeah, so the accommodation for Southampton is normally from 150 to 300 pounds a week. So in dollars, that's what, $300 to $600 ish. So I would say per semester, you're probably looking at about, doing some very quick maths, maybe £2,000 to £3,000 to kind of live quite comfortably. In terms of living costs, it's very easy to do that quite low cost, and your travel will be hopefully quite low because of the free bus pass and how easy it is to get around. But I would say $2,000 to $3,000 per semester is probably, which is $4,000 to $6,000 per semester, is probably quite a sensible amount to have.
Wonderful. And for anyone interested, if you are an Australian citizen who is Commonwealth supported, so you're deferring your fees to your HEX help loan, you are actually eligible to receive a loan of up to $8,000 from the Australian government per exchange semester. So if funds is something that is a big consideration for you when it comes to an exchange, and hearing that information, that might be something you can investigate to ensure that you will not only have enough to cover your experience, but be able to live comfortably and even take advantage of some of the activities overseas. In addition to all of the sort of facilities and offerings available, what would you say are the most popular sort of courses that students may take at Southampton, whether that's core equivalents or as part of their degrees, or a fun elective that they might be interested in studying?
Yeah, so in terms of popularity, a lot of students actually really enjoy. We have a set of modules which actually don't belong to a certain subject area. They are purposefully taught as interdisciplinary modules. So they are actually technically available to all students across all disciplines. And a lot of them are really focused on UN sustainability goals, and they're taught by different academics in different areas each year. And they really are about kind of two different subject areas coming together. A really good example is actually something I studied when I was an undergrad myself. So it was a combined module taught by the geography department and the computer science department. And it was all about how you visualize climate change and how you communicate climate change to different people from different backgrounds. So it was very much kind of climate change science, but then it was all about the different types of visualizations you can use computer programming for. They tend to be really popular with students because it gives a slightly different perspective on kind of standard subject areas, and they are open to all students. So it's also a really nice way to meet students from different subject areas that maybe you wouldn't cross over with initially. Away from that, I would say that our second year modules in general are the most popular with incoming exchange students. Normally that's because the second year is the first time that in the UK students start to specialise in their subjects. So that's when you start to get those slightly more advanced specific modules, which students can then really start getting into like a specialist area and actually starts to get really, really interesting in terms of looking at specific things.
And as part of our application process, our students propose subjects that they're interested in studying at Southampton on exchange. What's the capacity for that? Do students, if they propose what they're interested in, are they guaranteed, or is there sort of a capacity on first in best dressed? How can students ensure that they can get into the subjects they're most interested in?
Yeah, so on the application process, we'll ask for preferences. So students can list their top 4 preferences, and then we also ask for 2 reserve modules. We can never guarantee all the preferences because it's often down to timetabling and whether it works, especially if students do take modules across other subject areas. But the reason we then ask for those 2 reserves is that we always try and guarantee at least 4 from that list of 6 that students provide us. It's unless we know in advance, which if we did, we would make you guys aware of before the student applies, whether there is a capacity issue on a potential course. I would say the only reason a student wouldn't get their preferences is A, if there was a timetable clash, or B, if it was considered they didn't have appropriate academic background. But that's all part of the mapping process that I know you guys do at JCU in terms of helping students find the most appropriate module. If a student can't take a module, at Southampton, there are dedicated academics for each subject area that would then work with the student to try and find an appropriate module that they were still happy with. None of our modules are first come, first serve. We don't have kind of a timed procedure. So as long as the student applies in time, they should hopefully get at least 4 of those 6 that they put down.
Wonderful. And that, I guess, coincides with the question from Amelia, which asks, what's the application process like when enrolling for the exchange program? And I guess that's a bit of a tandem question, which we might quickly start with. So in order to go on an exchange or be selected to go on an exchange, you'll apply as part of JCU's application process. So we have 2 main application periods throughout the year, which coincide with our partner universities' semester dates. So for example, upcoming, we have the spring semester applications, which will open May 1st and close July 31st. So in that period of time, you'll complete what's called a preliminary application, which is where you'll provide us basic information as well as complete a credit transfer form, which is where you identify those subjects of interest that you'll find on the university's website. And then after that time, but before the nomination deadlines, as we saw earlier here, our team will work with you, your course coordinator here at JCU, and the Southampton Mobility team to make sure the subjects you've proposed are eligible for credit towards your degree. And then once we have successfully nominated you by the nomination deadline, that is when you will commence your actual application to study as an international exchange student, which I'll let Gemma quickly explain that process.
Yeah, so the application deadlines are then shown on the screen for you. So that application you would then expect to kind of hear in late June for the application for semester 1. And for semester 2, you should hear by the end of November at the absolute latest about the outcome. What I would say is very unlikely that you would not be successful in an application because of all the checks that JCU and ourselves do before we accept you. That's very much a formality. And then after you've been accepted and had your offer, we will then send you all the information around applying for accommodation, what to do next, and kind of what your journey looks like from there. It might be that when you get your offer, we're not able to 100% confirm which modules you'll be taking. Some of them we will be able to because we'll have timetables for them, but Southampton is awful at often timetabling a little bit late in the day. So you won't know exactly what you're studying, but you will then be able to do your accommodation and your logistics, and then your modules get confirmed a couple of weeks after you get your offer.
Perfect. And as part of our application process, we get you to identify at least 6, but preferably 8 modules that you are potentially interested in studying. So should, you know, as part of your application, the modules that you put down as your preference are unavailable or should something happen, we can also help to make sure we find stuff after the fact. We prefer to have stuff in advance just to ensure that we can make the process as smooth as possible, but we can work with you and Southampton at any point if changes need to be made. With regards to the application process, is there any documentation that students specifically need to provide? I know sometimes students might need to provide evidence of secondary school education or other documents.
So for us, we just need the most recent transcript. So for you guys, I think if you're going in second year mainly, we would just need the transcript from first year or from whatever modules you have already sat and received grades for. That just helps us to check your kind of academic background when they're matching you to the modules at Southampton. Other than that, you then just need an application form. Because of where you're coming from, we don't need English language from students from Australian universities, so it will just be the transcript and your application form.
Perfect. And as part of the application process, we help arrange a copy of an official transcript on your behalf, so you don't have to pay for it. Hopefully that answers your question in regards to the application process. It can be a bit of an extensive period and greatly in advance from the JCU perspective, because we get you to apply quite early so we can lock everything in. There is occasionally will be a period of time between when the application period closes and the month leading into nominations. You might not hear from us because we're finalizing stuff, but especially during reviewing your application, the nomination period, and submitting your application, we'll be heavily involved in making sure that everything's done as smoothly as possible so you can enjoy your experience. And then we'll do a very big pre-departure session with our students to ensure that they're ready to go. And you're welcome, Amelia. Thank you for asking that question. Other than that, I think that's all the initial questions I think that most are common for our exchange students. Again, the QR code is up here, so whether you're in attendance or watching the recording back, you're more than welcome to either scan the QR code and contact Southampton, or you're welcome to reach out to the JCU Global Experience team. Our information will be provided in links at the end of the video recording, and you can reach out to us and ask questions and we can have an exchange. But ultimately, I just wanted to thank Gemma for taking the time to not only show a little bit more about Southampton, but hopefully make the exchange experience exciting and intrigue everyone enough to pursue it. We at JCU are very excited to be able to offer this opportunity to students, and I can assure you, based on this, I would very much like to go to Southampton as an exchange student if I was still studying here. So I highly encourage everyone else to look into it, especially with applications opening very shortly. With that being said, I will close today's session. Again, any questions, please reach out to the relevant teams, and we look forward to hopefully sending you on a global experience sometime in the future. Thank you very much.